Exciting new folder mapping options with SharePoint connector. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video I'm going to show you a new way that the SharePoint connector app for Business Central can keep track of how data is mapped to SharePoint. If you're not familiar with the SharePoint connector, there are links below where you can check out the general videos and demonstration of the product. This video is about a new way of handling mapping, and I will jump straight into that. This is the SharePoint table mapping view, and keen eyes will perhaps notice that something has changed. There's two fundamental ways that the SharePoint connector will map data to SharePoint, and whenever I say map, I mean figure out what folder location should be associated with a given record in the system, like a customer. The first one is static. You can see the customer table here is marked as static. Static means that as soon as we find a location, we log that in and we keep that location for this record. You can change the name and so on. You can do all sorts of things, but the folder location is fixed. It's static. The other one is dynamic, and I think there was one down here that is bank account statement is marked dynamic. Dynamic means that every single time we have some data and we want to show the fill the content in the fact box, we calculate what folder should it be. And those two methods has been in the app for the last 5 years, or how long this app has existed. And sometimes it can be not as straightforward to get everything mapped to the place you want it to be mapped. So therefore we have introduced a new mapping method called inherited dynamic. And this is, let me explain how this actually works. This is like a mix of the two we have combined with something else. So if there's nothing in the system, then this is the same as dynamic. We will just calculate a location. This is where the data is. But now the SharePoint connector knows how specific tables, how data is moving inside Business Central. Let's say we have a sales quote that becomes a sales order, that becomes a post a sales invoice, that becomes general ledger entries. This SharePoint connector now knows this path of how data is traveling throughout the system. And what it does is that if a table is marked as inherited dynamic, it will drop a breadcrumb and say, hey, you move from quote to order. Let me put a marking on this order I just created that is connected to that quote we came from. And if we continue, it will say, but this posted sales invoice came actually not from the sales order, it came all the way back from the quote. So it will drop a static marker saying, hey, I belong to that quote. So whenever something started and it travels throughout the system, it will keep the trail, know the trail, and then they say, okay, the files are located here. So we go back to the original location where this first started. One of the principles in the SharePoint connector is we never try to move files. That is a complication because you can have general SharePoint functionality that relies on files existing. And if suddenly Business Central starts moving files around, then we would be breaking general SharePoint functionality. Plus, since these are actually files sitting on a server, so if you have hundreds and hundreds of files on something, and then you post, and it would spend 2 minutes moving files around, and that will be added to the time it took to post the document and so on. So we don't move files. So it's very important for the SharePoint connector to be able to locate where is this file, even though the data has traveled through the system. You could do it before with dynamic and alternative folder mappings and rules and so on, but this way it's so much easier. Let me show you how it works. So if I go to, let's do the sales quote. That was the example I mentioned. So I'll create a new sales quote, and I'll do it for a customer of 30,000. We will add an item. So the Olympics in 53 was not one of the ones that has date. So in 36, the Olympics was not. I don't want to do that one. I want to do 28 in Amsterdam. There we go. Quantity 1, and we will add a kangaroo. So this order. So now there's a kangaroo on this sales quote. So let's create an order from this. Convert it to order. That has happened. We'll see the order. And here's the kangaroo. So the kangaroo jumped with us, so to speak. So let's just post this thing. So we'll post this, ship it and post it, and here we go. Would you like to open the posted invoice? I do. And now we have the kangaroo and a sales invoice that was auto created on the way. Still, if we go take a look at this one and see browse in SharePoint, we can see that we're still actually in the folder of the quote, because that's where the breadcrumb trail starts. But let's say I go, say, find entries, and there are 5 GL entries. So let's click on the 5 GL entries, and we can see the kangaroo is also here. If I have something else created on GL, it will just be regular look up by the document number, whatever it is. But because of the new method, these 5 entries are marked and saying, hey, we belong to that folder that was created a long time ago at the sales quote. I can do the same thing again with I think with the customer ledger entries. The kangaroo also jumped to the customer ledger entries. So this method is super easy to use and implement for all those tables where data jumps. If you have an existing SharePoint connector, you cannot just change to this one and then magic will appear on all transactions. This only works for transactions going forward or new installations. If you want to know more about the SharePoint connector or some of our other apps, check the links below, and I hope you try this one out. Thank you for watching.